Okay. Hi, welcome everyone to the second installment of the PNgrowth live Hangout. We have an awesome group of people again assembled this time. First, I'd like to introduce Suresh Sambandam from KissFlow Software, and he's going to be joining us and telling us the entrepreneur's perspective. Sharad Sharma from the iSPIRT Foundation, Ren Koning from Stanford, and myself, I'm Sharique Hasan, also from Stanford University. So I want to just recap what we covered in the last call. And you can think about the series of Hangouts we're having as following a trajectory of kind of telling you why we're doing PNgrowth. And today is the what. So let me recap a little bit about the why. We've been having conversations both amongst ourselves and with entrepreneurs in India's ecosystem, and what we found is that there's a missing element to the kind of exposure that entrepreneurs get to help them do better with their startups, really become category leaders. And what we found that already exists are more tactical and operational events where startup founders meet with others to solve kind of day-to-day operational problems or things about the next few months. And what we found lacking, and what entrepreneurs feel that's lacking, is the strategic thinking about what is the long-term capabilities that I want to build in my startup, and how do I succeed in the global marketplace. And so we had a great discussion about that. So definitely check out our last Hangout. It's on video, so you can get it on our Twitter page.
It's on the website too.
It's on the website. So today what we're going to be doing is a little bit different. We'll tell you about the what. What exactly is PNgrowth, and what problems are we expecting to solve, and how it was designed to really kind of get at the deeper, more fundamental issues that are, the longer-term strategic problems that young startups face. So what I'm going to ask you to do, what we're going to do is start off with Suresh, and he's going to tell us a little bit about his experiences starting KissFlow. And the other thing that you want to know about Suresh is that he is one of the most hardworking founders in India, and he's trying to help other people and other founders grow as well. And so he's been devoting a lot of his time to this. And so that gives him an extremely unique perspective that I think a lot of people just don't have, is kind of seeing what the problems everyone else is facing. So Suresh, thank you so much for joining us, and I'm going to hand it off, and if you can begin by just telling us a little bit about yourself and KissFlow and the experiences that you've seen other founders have in India's ecosystem.
Sure. Okay. Hello, everyone. So my name is Suresh. I'm the founder and CEO of KissFlow. Just to give you a quick, 1-minute rundown on KissFlow. KissFlow is a automation for work software which helps B2B businesses to automate their work. We have like 10,000 plus customers across 120 countries or so. So, meaning, actually, with iSPIRT, I've actually done probably 6 or 7 roundtables, and roughly, if you have to say 15 to 16 people in a roundtable, there are 75 different founders I've actually met personally in a very close setup in the last 7-8 months, right? On a one-to-one discussion, like an 8-hour session, right? And meeting 75 founders across India, one-to-one setup, and 6 different cities. One thing that has come out very, very consistently is that people come up with an idea and get to a certain level, and after that they struggle quite a bit, right? And Playbook Roundtables was helping in its own unique way to solve some of the problems that the founders were having. But what I also felt is that you need some sort of a Gurukul type of a event, right, where there is immersive learning about taking their company to the much bigger level that needs to happen, which was not possible in a 6-hour session that happens in a roundtable. And that's when PNgrowth comes like a boom, right? There is this 3-day boot camp where people can actually achieve that. We'll probably talk more about that. So, but I really feel from listening to those 75 different entrepreneurs I've probably met in the last 7, 8 months, is going to be a fantastic option for people to come into the PNgrowth event, actually.
Sharad, you've also been organizing all these playbook roundtables through the iSPIRT Foundation. Can you tell us a little bit about how we should think differently about the PNgrowth camp and the roundtables and how they're complementary to each other, but really not substitutes?
Yeah, it's a very good question, Sharique. So first of all, about 860 people have gone through roundtables, playbook roundtables, right? And this time we'll only accommodate 200 of them in the PNgrowth camp that is going to happen here. So it's going to be for a much smaller audience. But the big difference really is in playbook roundtables is for here and now. The issues that you are facing here and now, how can you get past them and move forward? And PNgrowth is really about category leadership. So ultimately, in this winner-take-all kind of an industry that we are in, the value accrues only to the category leader. And what is happening, and our motivation for doing this is to actually improve the hit rate, of the number of startups who are able to get to the happy confused stage and then cross over into category leadership. So that's really the purpose. One is 6 hours, the other is 36 hours plus a whole year of program. One is tactical, one is about category leadership, one is about a playbook, the second is about setting the architecture for leadership in place, for category leadership in place. So these two are completely complementary. I mean, if you've done playbook roundtables, you should not miss out PNgrowth. And, one is not a replacement of the other.
Yeah, meaning, Sharad, one thing that I thought I'll add in here is that the category leadership is something not really well understood by founders, especially the young ones, right? And also, meaning I would probably try and see if I can explain this through what has happened for KissFlow, right? So when we kicked off with KissFlow, it was 2012, roughly 3 years ago, right? At that time, meaning category leadership is something that people have to think through in their strategy, in their positioning, very consciously, right? For example, you cannot become a leader in a massive category if you pick in the early days. So what KissFlow did, for example, is it positioned itself as a workflow for Google Apps. So what that means is, if you go into a workflow Google Apps marketplace and look for workflow software, KissFlow comes up as the #1 option. And straight away, a customer starts relating to you as, okay, if it's workflow and it's for Google Apps and it's KissFlow, right? So automatically that mind comes in there. And then you go on, take advantage of it in your marketing position, in your sales pitches. Your salespeople are confident when you're talking to the customer. Your employees are excited about it, and so on, right? And then you outgrow that. Your company reaches to a certain level, and then you outgrow that. Then we actually changed our positioning from not just workflow for Google Apps, we said KissFlow is a workflow software. That's a second level of positioning we took. And then in that category, we were able to become the #1 player for B2B workflow software. So we sort of changed it peaked our pitch, but then we expanded our scope. And then now we are basically outgrowing the workflow space, and we are saying KissFlow is for work. Anything related to work automation, you should be able to look at it. That's a much larger positioning. We're going after category leadership in work automation, not just workflow, but automate anything in the work. So I'm just trying to explain how founders need to think, position niche market in early days to get hold of a #1 position in a particular category, and then once they successfully have done it, and then go after sort of logically expanding their scope, not doing in a very haphazard way, right? But when you're a young founder, you end up start looking at biting the whole thing right in the beginning, and you cannot become a category leader at very early stages if you try to bite off the whole big market, right? So that's something that is not so obvious for founders. Something that founders got to sort of watch out.
So, I mean, these are amazing issues that you really bring up, and I think the challenge in all of this is the following. I think what what it takes to be a category leader is very different than what it takes to be successful in your very narrow product. And I think as founders are successful, and I think the category leadership problem is a problem of the people who are ultimately successful, right? So as KissFlow, you were very successful in your very narrow niche. And I think as you became successful, I think your ambitions grew. And this is something that a lot of young founders face, is that you've done something really well, and now the thing is, okay, to be really taking it to the next level, which is an obvious thing that you'd like to do, is to kind of grow beyond where you've already reached. You have to broaden your scope, broaden your vision, and the design elements of the startup actually have to change. The people that you hire, the hacker mentality, you'd like to keep that, the hacker mentality. You want to have innovation. You want people to try different things, but you have to be able to do it at scale. And I think Suresh is right. I think doing that, making that transition from a very successful and narrow product to broader global strategy is a non-obvious, right? How do you continue to maintain extremely high quality of talent? Where do you find these people? How do you keep the motivation going and keep people apace with the new rapid rate of growth? And that rate of growth is probably not going to be a linear growth. It'll be beginning to get exponential after you realize that you've been successful. And the other thing is, winning a race to be a category winner is not a traditional race. It's what the academics call kind of Red Queen race, right? Just to keep where you are, you have to start running faster and faster. So it's like you're running on a treadmill. You really can't move forward because everyone is running at the same pace. So how do you build the architecture around your startup to be able to do that? And I agree, it's very non-obvious. And I think the reason it's non-obvious is that there's probably not one right solution for this. I'm sure the solution that KissFlow has come up with is very particular to your product niche, and also particular to the kind of competitors that you have in the global marketplace. And that poses a very challenging problem for designing PN growth in particular, but also any kind of mentoring system within the ecosystem to help people kind of overcome this strategic bottleneck. Right. So how do you do that? And I think that has been kind of the challenge that we've been trying to design PNgrowth around, is that it's actually very easy to design a program around operational issues. Right. What you say is, look, I had these very specific operational issues regarding how do I acquire customers. Right. And so there's a set of tips and tricks that you can basically convey in a very short period of time. In a sense, you could potentially even do this in a lecture format where there's someone speaking about their own experience and telling you exactly what they did. And I think there's a sufficient knowledge transfer that's going on, and people will benefit. And I think that's true with a lot of other problems. I think the challenge there for a kind of strategic barrier, overcoming strategic barriers is a little bit different because problems are so diverse, is that how do you design around that? And I think what I'm going to do is first hand it off to Rem to talk about a little bit how we've been thinking about this, and then we have a bunch of questions that are coming up, and I'd like to answer them as well. So Rem?
Yeah, I'll just give you an overview of how we're thinking about sort of the first part. So while PNgrowth is a sort of a year-long program, we see the first 3 days of the boot camp as essential, is sort of helping you reflect and build out that strategy that's going to allow you to become a category leader. And sort of, building off what Sharique said, the first step is personalization, right? You can go read blog posts, you can listen to lectures, maybe, you've watched, someone, I don't know, the Google CEO sort of recount their story. But though that's useful, it's not going to be sort of tailored to your needs. And so with Sharique and then Ronnie Chatterjee, who's a professor at Duke, we sort of developed a way to personalize what sort of help you need and what sort of advice is going to help you go from being a niche player to a category leader. And so the first day of the program, we're going to introduce you to others that can help you sort of debug the problems that you face, and maybe they're problems that you don't even see. Right? I think often, maybe you're not being ambitious enough. Maybe you're being too ambitious. Maybe there's parts of the global marketplace that you really need to enter that you haven't seen, but other founders who do have more global reach can help you understand where you're failing there. And so that first day is going to really sort of be lots of interaction with the other founders who are part of the program, interaction with the mentors, guided by sort of our read of your companies and who we think you'd be most valuable for you to meet to sort of identify the problems that you face. On the second day, essentially, we're going to refactor out those problems. What are the frameworks? What are the tools? What are the strategies so that you can sort of re-architect your organization, re-architect your startup to overcome those problems or address new markets? Again, really interactive. We think that there's a wealth of lectures and blog posts out there. What we need is conversations and building relationships with people who can help you sort of refactor or redesign your strategy. And then on the third day of the boot camp, sort of after all this interaction, having lunch, meeting new people, building a network with sort of 200 awesome founders who are going through similar problems, the third day is, okay, that's great. We've had time to reflect. We've developed the beginnings of a strategy. How do we now convert these strategies into a better hiring process, into a culture of innovation, into how do we acquire customers globally, and sort of develop sort of a checklist even of what you need to do next. And then PNgrowth is going to be there for the next year, helping you implement that checklist, iterate on that checklist, pivot if need be. And so we're actually in the process right now of sort of developing our own software so that we can help you track these problems so that you can reach out to new founders if you encounter new challenges. Maybe you start scaling and suddenly building a great sales team is the problem that you face. We're going to be adaptive and responsive and come in and help you best grow that startup from being a niche player to hopefully becoming the next great sort of category leader in India and around the world. And so that's sort of the first 3 days. There's more we can talk about after that, but I think it would be awesome to jump into some questions now.
Sharique, can I start with the first question?
Sure.
It's a tough one, right? So, I know in the Valley, if we were doing this, it would be $10,000 for 3 days plus the ongoing program for a year. In iSPIRT, we don't do it like that. So why are we charging $10,000?
Yeah, actually, people even come and ask. There was Kiruba who came for the last roundtable in Chennai, and he said, "You guys are like so stupid. How can you not even charge any money for this, right? This is you just can't believe." So we give so much content and we just give it for free.
Yeah, I mean, we're really lucky that we're able to do this between the volunteers offering their time, and then the program's been funded by both the Stanford Graduate School of Business. We've gotten funding from them to do this, and Duke Fuqua's School of Business. And so we're able to come in and offer this. I mean, Sharique and I were benchmarking this out the other day. Sort of how much would this cost if if you were doing this sort of executive education or in the Valley, and it would be $10,000 minimum. And so I think there's a huge value here that's being offered by the sort of community and by iSPIRT.
Well, I think the
free for people, we just are charging 5,000 rupees commitment fee, so that if you take a spot, you turn up for it, and you don't, if it's a no-show, then somebody who desperately wants to be there will lose out. So that's the only fee that we are charging, and everything is included. I just mentioned that just to drive home the point that it's,
I mean, I think the other point about this is that because it was so, just our own experience, I could just talk very quickly about the experience. I think touching about the financing is I don't think it's as relevant as I think the problems that we're going to solve. But I think there is one point that's very important about it is likely it's not going to happen again. Because it's so costly to set something up like this. The total cost of this on our side is well into over 1 crore rupees is the total cost of the program that we've been able to completely almost eliminate because of support from Stanford, from Duke. That's not including the time for the volunteers who are flying in on their own money. And so I think the challenge now is we're able to put this on for a very limited number of people for these 3 days, residential, food included, travel from Bangalore to Mysore. I think that's fantastic, and I think this is like a great opportunity. I'm very excited about it. But I think the harder part for us is we're probably not going to be able to offer this again because it's so costly.
Yeah, or if we do, there's going to be a way bigger fee.
Huh? Oh,
if we do, there's going to be a way bigger fee. So.
Yeah. So I mean, that aside, I think the interest has been fantastic. There's I think Sharad mentioned 860 people who have participated in the playbooks. I think are what we're estimating is there's about a potential pool of about 1,300 to 1,500 startups in India that could really benefit from a program like this. It's just we don't have the space. We've gotten around 50 applicants so far, and they're fantastic. I think the quality is just quite amazing, and to see some of the issues people are facing, the kind of brilliant ideas that they have, is really, really quite inspiring. So I think it's going to be an amazing bunch. The only wish we had is we could make it a little bit bigger. I think that's just going to be a challenge this year. So let me, talk a little bit about something that's a little different about PNgrowth. Compared to other programs. So there's a really great question. Can you shed a little more light on how things will proceed beyond those 3 days? And that's exactly what I was going to get into. How exactly will the mentoring networking inputs work? So that has been an important challenge. So I actually think that we really can't solve the strategic problems in 3 days. I think 3 days are a great way to peel back the layers of the onion and figure out what those problems are for each startup. I think that's what will be the value for those 3 days. You definitely can't do it in 2-3 hours. You can't do it in a day. Maybe we'll be able to do it really well in 3 days, but actually solving those problems is not going to be a 3-day affair. It's going to be a much, much longer, much more dynamic affair. And that's the kind of challenge of the PNgrowth program, is that what we want to do is not just do the event, but actually have a long-term process of mentoring and peer mentoring. I think Pallav talked about this last time. I think what we want to be able to do is build a network of startups that are learning together about how to overcome strategic issues. And so we're going to do this in a variety of ways. So the first way is purely from our side, so the academic side, so Rem, myself, and Ronnie Chatterjee, who's not on the call, but he'll be leading a call next week. Ronnie is a professor at Duke, and he's taught entrepreneurship at Harvard and at Duke, and he was on the Council of Economic Advisors for the Obama administration for innovation. So a tremendous amount of knowledge there. So what we want to do from our side is catch up with startups every month and just really see what the issues are that they're facing and kind of implementing their strategic plans, and see whether we can serve as a funnel for resources, both from within India, from within the PNgrowth network, and outside the PNgrowth network in India, that we can channel these resources and knowledge to you. So think of us as a kind of clearinghouse for this stuff, and also hopefully connect you to people in the Valley that have relevant experience that can be of help. The other thing I think, which is much more sustainable, is kind of creating lower barriers to interaction within the ecosystem and kind of create continuous learning. So our hope is that we can continue to run smaller micro PNgrowth events that are facilitated in Bangalore, in Bombay, in Delhi, that can be follow-ups that can help you solve kind of more of the strategic issues much closer to home. And then finally, I think the long-term goal is that there's going to be something organic that develops. There's really nothing that we can do to kind of facilitate the organic things that ultimately emerge, which is friendships between startups will form. I think there's just going to be a lifelong learning, and I think that's what the Valley is really good at, is that there's fundamentally something organic that exists, that's been facilitated by institutions such as Stanford and the VCs and other events that have happened. These are the more formal venues, but I think the organic part is much more natural and a lot more sustainable, and we'd like to help facilitate that organic development as well. So, we're planting a garden. We see it as planting a garden, but the garden ultimately will grow by itself, and I think that's very much possible.
Excellent. So I think anybody who's watching this and has aspirations to be a category leader, don't miss the chance. Apply early. It will fill out, and there is nothing any of us can do to get you in because we have only space for 200 people to stay in the beautiful Infosys campus there. So there's nothing we can do later. So if you don't want to regret it, apply now. Apply early. We have already cleared 20 applicants for this, and we are 10% through even before we start announcing this in a big way. So apply early, get in if you have any aspirations to be a category.
Yeah, maybe I'll mention a little bit about our system right now. So we've gotten 50 applicants, and they're very, very strong. So what we're doing right now is going through those applicants on applications on a weekly basis. So there's a small group discussion that happens where we look at your application, look at your startup, see whether you're at the right stage to benefit from a program such as this. And what we'll do is basically after we review the batch at the end of the week, we just basically offer you admission. And so we're trying to fill up the spots on a rolling basis. So my sense is we'll probably be able to fill up most of the spots in the coming 2 to 3 weeks at the rate at which the applicants are coming in now. And so we definitely do encourage, if you're really passionate about this and really want to be part of this community, I think it's probably a better idea to apply earlier than later. There's some possibility that we may be able to expand the number of slots that we have open, but that's going to be a little tough given our constraints, the financial and the resource constraints that we have. So I definitely would encourage applying earlier.
Sharique, it will also be good to talk about the type of companies, I think, right? So,
go ahead.
Yeah, I think we are talking about like 2 types of companies here, right? So one is B2B SaaS targeting the global market, right? And then the India-focused, consumer-focused companies, right? So if you're really looking at, if you're a B2B SaaS company going after the global market, I mean, you shouldn't be, I'm going to be there, Girish is going to be there, and in the kind of guys who have actually sort of done it for the SaaS product, taking the product to the global market are going to be the mentors for the PNgrowth, right? So that's what you are going to get. So it's going to get like undistracted attention from some of the guys who have actually done it for the 3 days in the boot camp. And that's a lot of time, right? So sometimes getting 15 minutes is hard from people like Girish, and you're going to have like 72 hours. So that's that's like invaluable actually. So I think it will also be good to mention some of the other people, other founders in the consumer space. Share it.
Sharique Sharma will be there, for example.
Yeah.
Go
ahead. Yeah.
And others, of course. So I think we'll, of course, have all our big roster of people who've been part of the iSPIRT family, and they'll all be there as resource people to make sure that the PNgrowth program is a very big success. So we are taking this very seriously. We have 90 days plus to go. And we are really cooking for category leaders. If we don't have category leaders, our ecosystem will not be successful. This is our biggest and the most important investment that we are making to create category leaders, from the pool of product startups.
Yeah. So we only have a few more minutes left, and I know people have started posting questions. So if you have any questions about anything about PNgrowth, just type them in, let us know, and we're happy to answer them.
So we must mention that we'll do another Hangout a week from now, most likely same time next week, give or take. Please keep a lookout on the social media, Twitter feed, and Facebook and other places to see when that next session is going to take place, and we'll go into even more detail, as to what's going to happen on a day-by-day basis. But Sharique, I think it would be very helpful, especially to could cover what will happen, perhaps on the first day, second day, third day. I know you did mention it earlier. If you could recap that, that would be very helpful.
So the way we've designed PNgrowth is so the thing we're designing around is strategy. So big think, long-term growth, and trying to solve another problem, which is that much of the information about how to go about doing this is not in textbooks, and you can't get it in lecture format. So how do we design that? So the way we've set it up is a 3-day structure. So on the first day, we'll all meet in Bangalore, and we're going to take chartered buses to Mysore together. So we'll have several buses go down, and everyone is going to be, everyone has to come on the bus. The bus is actually part of our curriculum. So we're going to have very specific discussions in the bus, led by founders such as Suresh, Girish, Anish, Vijay Shekhar Sharma. So they'll be the bus team leaders, and they'll be guiding a set of discussions on the 3 issues that we're going to be covering. So hiring, team processes and culture, and global product strategy. And Rem, myself, and Ronnie will also be on the buses to facilitate that. So the idea with the bus ride to Mysore, which is a 4-hour ride, is to just really come up with all the big issues that everyone is facing. Once we get there, we have something called our debug session. Actually, it's a really quite amazing thing. So we've developed custom software for PNgrowth. And that's an inverted model of learning. So it's not a lecture-based learning. It's actually people work in small groups. So everyone's going to be working in a small group of 3 and Shashank of Practo. So the groups are going to be really, really small. And what we want to do is design the groups in a very useful way that every group has a set of people who are facing a set of problems, and also someone in the group can help to address those problems. And so we'll guide each group through a discussion process. Oh, that's a fantastic question. So yes, Sanjay, I'll respond to your question in 1 second. So the first day is just a debug session. So we'll try to uncover each of the problems that the startups are facing. And we'll do it in kind of in a structured way. So groups of 3 to 4 people discussing. Each mentor is going to be assigned to about 5 or 6 groups that they'll help facilitate this discussion process. So it'll be very intimate, very small group. Followed by that, we'll have kind of a larger kind of airing out session of the big problems that we're facing, led by a panel of mentors that are going to try to address each of the broad categories of issues people are facing. So that's a debug session, discovering. And so during that time, there's going to be actually a bunch of assessments and that we're going to do, and there's actually some preparatory work as well. So we'll be sending out what we have kind of designed as a almost like a checklist and a diagnostic that we'll send out in November once the enrollments are done, so people can kind of assess where they're at. We'll give you feedback about where your problems lie in terms of other founders facing these problems, and whether these are problems that are serious barriers or the ones that you can overcome in more tactical ways. So that's like the pre and the first day. The second day is designed around solutions. So everyone now has found the problems that they're facing, and I think that'll come out through the discussion process. And the second day is really the entire day, the 8 hours. We're going to be working to figure out solutions for those, and that'll be led by our mentor founders, Ronnie and myself, and then you'll discover that a lot of those problems can be solved by your peer members. The third day is really about planning. So how do we implement this strategy? And we've done this previously. Is that when you write down your strategy in a concrete way, it's much more easy to implement it than if you're doing this in a very informal way. So we're going to try to formalize the strategy in terms of what do you need to do over the next year, next 3 months, next 6 months, and what are the big milestones you need to overcome these strategic barriers. Those are the 3 days, and all of this will be technology-led. So the platform that we developed, Rem can talk to you a little bit about it, really kind of is a strategic dashboard to kind of guide you through that process. So we
and I think I'm going to build on what Sharique's saying and say, I think the platform's really, I mean, beyond making it easier to enter the data and all that, it allows us to collect data from across, the 200 people who are taking part in the program, and so see who those best matches are to take a really data-driven approach to something that often doesn't have a lot of data there. And one of the things I know from talking about the roundtables, which has been excellent, is that there's been heterogeneity in the success of roundtables based off whether there was sort of cohesion in the group, right? So some roundtables, awesome, huge success, because there's something about the way those people who are grouped together can really interact. Other ones, though good, you don't get that spark, that sort of extra energy. And what that technology platform allows us to do is to really make sure that that spark emerges in the groups that you're working with, and allows us to source from, if someone says they've been just, the best at hiring, we can then use that data point to match that to a firm that's struggling with developing that pipeline, or, vice versa, whatever it may be. And so we're really excited about this. This is sort of the bleeding edge of strategy research, where we're taking sort of the most cutting edge ideas on how you grow companies, how you develop strategy, converting that into a platform that's data driven, and then helping helping the members of PNgrowth leverage that to become category leaders.
I just want to mention this kind of a custom approach hasn't been done before, right? And this is not an off-the-shelf kind of a program that we've just brought to India with a little bit of tailoring. This has been built ground up for the Indian entrepreneurs.
Exactly.
It has absolutely customized content for Indian entrepreneurs. It has the customized debugging tools. It has even customized software. And the software that Rem is talking about is called Texo. I won't be surprised if it goes commercial after all this. So
I'll have to join the program myself next batch.
So this is really serious stuff. Been cooking for many months. Money's been lined up from various sources to make it happen, and and Infosys has been gracious enough to give us their campus for this period. So this is really a special effort that hasn't. This kind of a big effort has never happened in the ecosystem in its history, right? So if you have to have some gumption to miss it. And so my suggestion is, if you are even half interested, sign up quick. Otherwise, you will regret it.
We have another question, and I'd like to throw this out to everybody. And I think that's a fantastic question by Ashish Belagali. So you're talking about debugging the problems faced by a startup. It needs a deeper understanding of the startups. Are you looking to provide one-to-one mentoring to the startups on day one in some form or the other? So I think that's a fantastic question. So I think one-on-one mentoring is the gold standard. A long-term one-on-one mentoring is the gold standard, and we'd like to reach that as much as possible. So that's the way we've tried to do it, is get as close to that as possible. But if we were to do one-on-one mentoring, we could do PNgrowth for 10 people.
Yeah, or we'd have to cut up Suresh, and I don't think he wants that to happen.
So just quickly, the design of the first day is really about trying to get as close to the one-on-one mentoring as possible. And so we start that with a kind of a layered system. So small groups. So it's 1 to 2, right? So 3-person, 4-person group, and that helps kind of that discussion guided by Texo kind of airs out those issues. Then what we want to do.
Sharique, can I just jump in 1 second in terms of the design? Is that the small groups based off the Stanford's design thinking methodology. And so often we apply design thinking developing products, but there's no reason you can't use it to improve your organization as well, to improve your startup. And so those first sort of you're with 2 or 3 other people, you're listening to their problems, providing empathy, learning from them, and this is all really structured. We use the design thinking method adapted for the setting, and then the mentors are wandering around and coming in when those problems are there. So it essentially gives us a way to leverage the amazing mentors and the other people in the program to get as close to that gold standard of sort of one-to-one mentoring as you can. So yeah. I thought that was just worth mentioning. I think the design thinking aspects are really nice, a nice adaptation.
Right. So you get kind of layered solutions, right? So one is the peer learning, mentor to member learning, and then kind of aggregate learning. So what are the best practices discovered across the entire member base? And I think that gets, I think, as close as we can to the one-on-one. So we're really out of time, and maybe we can conclude with some closing remarks, and I'll hand it off to Sharad.
You know, it's a confluence of cutting-edge academic work, you know, real founders who accomplish stuff, and ecosystem builders coming together in a fashion, you know, that probably hasn't happened before. And so it's a lot of fun. Yeah, you know, everybody involved in it has a lot of fun cooking it, and we are really waiting for, with a lot of anticipation for January, you know, to kind of get it deployed. And so we are counting on you to be there.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Great.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.